Good morning, everyone. On behalf of my co-authors, David, Nemer, Josiah, Mangiameli, Amy Bruckman, and Neha Kumar, I'm excited to present our paper on El Paquete Semanal, or in English, the weekly package. And before we get started, I should mention that one of my co-authors actually put this on Reddit last night, and it's currently on the front page. So that's pretty exciting. I don't know if it deserves applause, but thank you. So when talking about this research, I find it useful to pose the question, what is the internet? I think especially in highly connected contexts, people often conflate the internet with the World Wide Web, especially with an emphasis on the technological components that make up this system. However, in Cuba, the internet looks very different than the networks that you and I may engage with on a regular basis. So up until recently, only 5% of the population had access to the World Wide Web. And during the last couple of years, access has been increasing, and this is mainly through public Wi-Fi hotspots. But this access is slow and expensive, and users are prioritizing their time by using it mainly to communicate with family members that are outside of Cuba. Despite this prohibitive access to the World Wide Web, there is a proliferation of multimedia content in the city of Havana. Millions of Cubans are engaging with digital content on a regular basis through an informal, pervasive, offline internet known as El Paquete Semanal. El Paquete is a 1 terabyte collection of digital content that's compiled by individuals and released on a weekly basis. The content is distributed by hand across Cuba via external hard drives, USBs, and CDs. The collection includes a variety of television, music, movies, apps, educational programs, YouTube videos, magazines, and news, and it costs between $2 to $5 US for the entire terabyte worth of content. And it's also become so pervasive that there is an estimate that it may be the largest employer in Cuba. So through this research, we wanted to explore how does El Paquete facilitate offline access to content regularly and affordably, all while not being formally sanctioned by the Cuban government. We explored this question through fieldwork conducted across 5 phases over 2 years, and this included interviews with 53 participants regarding their uses and engagements with El Paquete. And we also spent time observing and participating in the numerous activities associated with compiling, acquiring, and consuming this content. Our fieldwork uncovered a socio-technical system that is heavily dependent on the human infrastructure to support the offline internet in a technologically constrained environment. So human infrastructure consists of the people, relationships, and organizations that underlie the foundations of a system or network. So we focus more on what the human element enables versus what the technological element enables. And so we structured our findings around the work that is undertaken by the people who hold this network together. So this includes los maestros, or the masters, los paqueteros, the packagers, and la gente, or the people. So responding to the pervasive scarcity of information access, a group of individuals began distributing digital content in Cuba on USB drives somewhere around 2011. And this group became known as Los Maestros. So right now there are about 3 competing groups of maestros in Havana. And this is an example of one of the most famous ones, Estudios Odisea. And each week, these individuals undertake a variety of small and large tasks to compile the 1 terabyte worth of material. And this first starts with acquiring content. As Juanito said, I have different people bringing sections to me. I have one person downloading movies, another one taking care of music, and another one bringing TV shows. I organize the content, make sure there's no pornography or anti-government stuff, and put everything in El Paquete. So Juanito draws on a variety of people to help him acquire the content needed to produce this each week. And in addition to organizing people that may have some internet access at work, he also maintains a fake water tower on top of his apartment building that he uses to hide an illegal satellite dish. And his girlfriend, Paula, then watches the television in her apartment and records specific shows so that they can put them in El Paquete. And Juanito also cleans the content to make sure that there is nothing that is controversial that could get them in trouble with the government. Los maestros also acquire local content by acting almost as talent scouts. So they search for local acts to put in El Paquete. And in fact, people in Cuba are becoming famous by having their work distributed in this network. And this work is also making its way outside of Cuba. In addition to promoting these acts, they also promote themselves. So this is an example of a song that I bought from El Paquete. But the album art has nothing to do with the artist or the music. It's actually a maestro who has his contact information there so that people can, if you want to get promoted in the system, you know how to contact him. So once this content is compiled, the maestros sell it to the next group in this network, paqueteros. And the paqueteros are the ones who bring the content in El Paquete to consumers, either by distributing it to their clients' homes and businesses or through physical stores that have begun to pop up all over Havana. And now, actually in the center of the city, you can find one of these stores on almost every block. So paqueteros customize the method of delivery for this content. So there are often customers that can't afford to either buy the entire paquete or they don't have access to a computer to be able to scroll through the whole thing or an external hard drive. So often what you can do is come in these stores and you bring a USB stick and you sit with the paquetero and scroll through and pick the kind of content that you want. So you customize your own package. So paqueteros also organize and clean their content like the maestros do. So they take into account their clientele's values as well as their own. So for example, Nemer told us, "My paquete comes from me and I do not like to distribute something with content that is not good. If there is something I do not approve of, I try to eliminate that section. It's like censoring." So a lot of his clients are from his local church, and he said that he tries to remove content that he considers to be against the Christian theme. And he said that he thinks that his clients see this as an extra beneficial service that he provides, and that if they don't like it, they can go to someone else because there's plenty of paqueteros around the city. And we also saw examples of paqueteros customizing prices based on specific customers. So for example, Ricardo charges less for his content than other paqueteros because he says that his clients don't make as much and they can't afford to pay what other people pay. And he also makes sure that his less technologically savvy customers know how to download and update their iPhone or their phone software. And he often does this for them at no extra charge. So when we asked him why he helps people in this way, he told us, "The only way people know about these things is in El Paquete. There's no internet. I bring it to them." So the final group in this human network is la gente, or the people, who engage with this network on a massive scale and across all socioeconomic statuses. So while there is a desire for entertainment, there are also many other needs and motivations that drive this network. Like Zamira, who's a grandmother who's constantly on the lookout for educational videos and documentaries, which a lot of people in Havana refer to as Los Discovery, for herself and also for her granddaughter. So Zamira told us, "It's important for people to have a larger view of what is in the world. I love watching Los Discovery because it allows me to see what life is like for other people all over the world. This is important for us here." So when Zamira was raising her son, she said that she didn't have access to content beyond what the government provided. And now through El Paquete, she really tries to make sure that her granddaughter has a different experience by viewing a wider variety of digital content. And El Paquete is also the main way that Cubans interact with Revoluco, which is like a Cuban Craigslist. And this is one of the only ways for individuals to buy, sell, and trade items, find jobs, and advertise services. So Los Maestros each week download the most recent online versions and put offline versions into El Paquete so that people can engage with Revoluco this way. Our participants also described how they themselves customized El Paquete for others and how they preferred to engage with El Paquete so that it was customized for them. So Alexis gets El Paquete from his neighbor who pre-selects content for him. And he said, "I don't have access to more than what my neighbor buys. I don't want to have it either, because sometimes it's so much information that I lose my mind. I'd rather see what my friend has already selected. I trust his taste." And finally, La Gente not only consume content, they also create it. For example, Maria is a journalist for an online magazine that used to be read mainly outside of Cuba because of the lack of internet access. So now, thanks to El Paquete, those in Cuba can read this magazine. Maria told us, "This is the most efficient and cost-effective way for us to publish our content. It affords new paths and opportunities for those who work in journalism. Before, the only opportunity was to work for the government. Now El Paquete provides a different venue." So our findings highlight how the work undertaken by the human infrastructure plays a central role in sustaining and growing El Paquete, offering a unique version of the internet where it would otherwise not exist. So specifically, the human infrastructure of this network mobilizes a personalized and negotiated kind of internet for its consumers. So our participants described how they customized El Paquete for others, like Ricardo, who charges less for his customers, charges less for his content for certain customers, and Alexis, whose neighbor puts together content based on Alexis's taste. So the fact that El Paquete is held together by human links also means that these transactions are very non-standardized and generally unpredictable. So as systems move towards becoming more and more automated, our study illuminates aspects of the human infrastructure, such as personalization, that are not always replaceable by technology. And this visibility is just as important in places where internet access is not constrained, such as in the case of Amazon mechanical turkers and gig workers, whose contributions are often rendered invisible. Through this enhanced visibility, we see that actors of El Paquete not only engage with the material, tangible elements of the network, but are in constant negotiations with personal preferences and legal boundaries. So these negotiations are continually feeding into a system that remains responsive and adaptive to a variety of use cases. El Paquete also provides an internet that is both entertaining and informative. So similar to other informal media sharing networks like those in New Delhi, entertainment is a major driving factor of El Paquete. However, it also provides users with a variety of additional information needs, such as educational content, and it connects individuals with critical resources by facilitating a means to buy, sell, and trade with other people around the city. It also serves as a relevant participatory internet. So we see an example of a thriving, established, pervasive information network that is locally relevant in terms of content and delivery. So for example, since access to the World Wide Web in Cuba is prohibitive, whereas El Paquete is affordable for all, especially with price adjustments for certain individuals and groups. And since El Paquete is not openly in opposition to the Cuban government, it's sometimes viewed as a safer alternative than the World Wide Web. And this network also contains locally sourced content. So consumers don't only engage with content passively, they're also producing content that's finding its way back into the network, like Maria, who published her magazine through El Paquete. So there are definitely assets to this system, but there are limitations. So for example, while the lack of automation may facilitate personalization, it also means that individuals have to undertake a lot of work to support this network. And as with any socio-technical system, there are power structures at play within El Paquete and also acting upon it. So a human process of selecting the content means that certain individuals are in a position to decide what others have access to. So the content in El Paquete is also determined by government regulations, such as no pornography or anti-government talk. So while it is relevant and participatory in ways that benefit the Cuban people, it also remains subject to the politics of information. And importantly, it also does not provide people with everything that they want from the internet. And this is mainly the ability to communicate in real time with close friends and family members that are outside of Cuba. So in conclusion, in Havana, instead of only relying on the technological components, people must rely on the human infrastructure of this internet to engage with activities that hold the most meaning and value for them. Although the internet in Cuba may appear different than the one that you and I engage with on a regular basis, it's important to note that our internet also relies on a human infrastructure. El Paquete provides a critical opportunity to understand the human labor that constitutes the socio-technical system and emerges as a provocative example of an information network that challenges our notions of what the internet should look like in different parts of the world. Thank you, and I'd be happy to address any questions.
Hi, Dimitar Bono from UCSD. Thank you for a great talk and very interesting research. So the local artists that also participate in producing content, what is the payment pricing structure? How are they remunerated?
That's a great question. So that is very dependent on who they decide to go to. I think it's more formalized and maybe a little bit more expensive if they try to go all the way to the top. Like, so if they were to call that person, Abel Alesencia, they were to call him, I think it might be a little bit more pricey. But whenever I was asking paqueteros, they said that they also promote content. So it's not just through Los Maestros. And I actually had several paqueteros tell me that if there's someone in their neighborhood that wants to be promoted, they do it at no charge because they want to kind of build up their own community. Yeah.
Sorry, just a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any, after the first promotion, is there any method for them to later receive payment for their work if they become, or is it they receive payment through other channels by becoming famous?
That's a great question. I don't know exactly, but I have a feeling, I'm almost positive that they do not get any payment for that at all. It's mainly just promotion. And then, like in Havana, I went to several concerts that were by people who became famous in El Paquete, and so people were paying to get into those concerts. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Estelle Smith. I have another question. I had no idea about this, so this is like opening up my world right now. I was actually thinking on the walk over here today about how is it that people want to be consuming news? Because I know that the way that I consume news is frantic. You know, I'm on social media, I'm trying to find things, and I feel like I have to stay up to date all the time. And sometimes I feel like it's making me crazy. And this is interesting to me because it's like, okay, you're going to get this very large amount of data, but you're only going to get it once a week. And I'm just curious about if you think that there's any benefit to that particular aspect of it, like almost for like humans' ability to cope with information overload in new media environments.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I mean, for me, this is obviously completely speculative, right? I know that I really enjoyed personally engaging with it in this way. It seemed a lot less overwhelming. It kind of cut through the noise. At the same time, though, I have the privilege to be able to say that because I also experience, you know, I can choose between those levels of access, right? So I definitely think that there may be a benefit to that. At the same time, they don't have the option to choose an alternative. So, but I think it's something that definitely could be impact, especially in more highly connected contexts. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.